Hello and welcome to the Art of Selling Online Courses. We're here to share winning strategies and secret hacks from top performers in the online course industry. My name's John Ainsworth and today's guest is Lara Acosta. Now, Lara is a personal branding expert and she helps CEOs and founders to build their audience on LinkedIn. I first heard about Lara through a friend of mine, Jody, who had scaled her audience from about 7,000 people to 20,000 people in about 6 or 7 months. And she was like, this woman is the shit. She knows what she's talking about. You need to get in touch with her. So we had the chance to hang out a little while ago, and I asked her to come on the podcast so she could share her wisdom with all of us and hopefully help a lot of you guys to figure out, is LinkedIn going to be a good part of your social media strategy, helping you to build your audience? Lara, welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me and for coming to London.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting one. Most people in the audience, they've got courses or a membership, they've got an audience somewhere, but people are starting to grow that audience and it might be relatively small at the moment. You particularly focus on LinkedIn. Can you tell us, I know you do other stuff as well, you're doing YouTube as well, but why was LinkedIn such a big deal? Why did you decide to focus on that?
Well, basically, if we look at the stats, there's about 1 billion users as of, 2024, and only 5% are posting, and then only 1% are posting weekly. So when it comes to competition, you need to assess how competitive are you in a saturated market. Mine was business, marketing, entrepreneurship, all of those things. Instagram saturated, TikTok saturated. Well, I don't believe in saturation, but sort of. And then LinkedIn just felt like an easier place for me to kind of like grow. But that is only in hindsight. The reason why I joined LinkedIn was because I saw something that I was personally lacking, and that was I was over the images, the videos, the all of that I was seeing on TikTok. I just wanted to write. And LinkedIn seemed to be a great platform. But I didn't like Twitter, and LinkedIn just was very professional and had the ideal people that I would love to connect with. At the time when I joined LinkedIn, I was looking for a job. I was never trying to build a personal brand. And it just happened as a default of me talking about what I'm interested in. And then it just sort of happened. Things aligned. I got very lucky. I was prepared over like with my knowledge. But yeah, that's why I chose LinkedIn.
Interesting. Okay, so you kind of lucked into it at the beginning. You were looking for a job, and then that turned into you managed to build a personal brand. Did you ever get the job?
No.
Okay. So what happened? What was the
So
process?
I joined LinkedIn because I was looking for a reference for university. And I was like, okay, I rarely went to lectures, honestly. I didn't really get to meet my tutors, and they tell you to do that at university, like make friends with them, connect with them on LinkedIn. I didn't do any of that because I was honestly not interested in my course. I had a terrible experience at university. But then when the pandemic came, I had to go back home, kind of like I'm Mexican, so I was there. And I was like, I need to get a reference to now either get a job or go back to university and do a master's. So I had deleted my LinkedIn a year prior because of the pandemic. Everything I saw was my friends getting promoted and getting all the jobs in the world, or like my ex-boyfriend doing so well, and I was just at home, unemployed, sad, depressed, and having the worst time. I was like, I don't want to see this. This is so toxic. LinkedIn is the worst platform. And then a year later, I went back and created a new account from zero, and I was like, I'm gonna try and make this look as nice as possible. So I went and looked for a Gary Vee video, binge watched a bunch of LinkedIn videos, and two of them were Gary Vee's. He was like, you need to stop posting on LinkedIn right now, otherwise you're gonna miss out so hard. I told you this about TikTok, and you guys didn't listen to me. Listen to me about LinkedIn. So I listened to the man, and within the first 2 months, got my first viral post, one of my top 10 still viral posts to this day, and it ended up changing the entire track of my life forever. So I never got a reference, I never got a job from LinkedIn, but I created my own. So I guess that's it.
So who do you think? So you're posting on LinkedIn a lot still, right? You've got over 100,000 followers on there. You're also using YouTube. You've started doing videos on there. Why both? Why not just double down on LinkedIn? What's better or worse about YouTube?
Well, I doubled down on LinkedIn until I had about 100,000 followers. I didn't start YouTube until I've 100,000, 100%. I don't think that anyone should be trying to build an omnipresent brand in multi-channels until you nail down your message. So now I'm doubling down because it just makes sense. and I have the budget to spend on YouTube, I have the time, and I have the validated idea, and this is very important. I have the validated idea, the validated niche, and the validated content to then turn into scripts. And I think a lot of people misunderstand that because they'll see people like me or Alex Osmosi, Grant Cardone, or anyone going omni-channel, but it's because they already have that validated idea. And I don't think I don't think I could be doing YouTube as well as I'm doing it now without having had those 2 years of practice in scripting, in offers, in clients, in understanding the problems and understanding how to talk to my ideal audience. So I think that was essential for me, and it's honestly created the best path to grow. For example, I'm active on Twitter, I'm active on newsletter and YouTube, and also LinkedIn. But LinkedIn is always going to be my main platform. I didn't go to Twitter until I had 50,000 followers. Then I started a newsletter at 80,000 followers. So each time I started to, slowly branch out. But again, everything starts with my LinkedIn content.
And who do you think should be using LinkedIn as a channel? So, for example, there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast who are running language course creation businesses, right? So I'm guessing probably for them, it doesn't make sense. I'm not sure about that. I'm throwing this out there. Whereas somebody who is targeting business people, trying to reach founders, trying to reach marketing managers, whatever, with their audience, maybe it does. What do you think? Who are the people that should be thinking about it?
Why do you not think that?
Because I've seen YouTube work so well for so many of them, and SEO as well. And I've never seen anybody doing that with LinkedIn. Now, it might be that there's a massive gap and they absolutely should be doing that. Do you think they should?
It's not that they should or shouldn't, it's do you want to build a personal brand? LinkedIn is the avenue to build a brand about you. It's not about your business, and that's where people get confused. You're building your own account under your own name. Your personal brand on LinkedIn is separate to your company page, for example. So you're building who you are. Who is John? Your business isn't you. It's part of what you do, but isn't entirely you. You're building the John brand. Like, what are your interests? How did you start your own business? What's actually driving you to keep on going? What happened during COVID? Did you fail? Did you lose? I want to know. And that then becomes an avenue to people to get to know you as a person, be so invested in what you do that then eventually they end up buying onto whatever you're doing. So it's more like a mindset shift that a lot of business owners need to take when they're building up on LinkedIn. It's not about lead generation at the start. It shouldn't be when you're building a personal brand. So you're not, for me, personal branding is an art. You're building your story, how it happened, and then ultimately you build those die-hard fans that people see in people's comment sections, like, I don't know, Gary Vee, Mr. Beast, whatever it is. That is the essence of personal branding. It is not just about lead generation.
Okay. So what are some of the benefits of that personal branding besides the lead generation then? What else do you get from that?
You get influence, authority, you can get business opportunities, anything really. It's open. It can open any opportunities you want as long as you're creating content aligned towards that. I never saw LinkedIn as a lead generation thing, and I was listening to a podcast by, I think, Alex Osmosi, and it was Rich Roll and Stephen Bartlett, and they were talking about how they would be doing the things that they were doing if they weren't making money out of them. And that's exactly what I would have been doing. I was already posting content on Instagram, on TikTok, anywhere, simply creating an art of sharing information, sharing knowledge. And then ultimately, by luck, accident, and preparation, I ended up being able to monetize it. So it is, for me, it's a life's work. Like, if you're passionate about what you're doing so much, you're able to then teach others why you're so passionate about it. They can then learn your passion, implement it, and then ultimately they come and buy from you. The majority of my clients don't actually pay me until they make their first, $10,000, $5,000, $1,000 from my free content. And then they come in and they buy my services after. So eventually it's just like a circle of like trust. And you've helped me, I helped you, reciprocity bias, on. And then it just creates a community, and honestly, it's amazing.
Yeah, Jody, our mutual friend, has been banging on at me for a couple of years about building personal brand. I'm just trying to decide whether to tell this story. We might cut this later. We'll see.
Okay.
So Jodie gave a talk at a conference about 2 years ago.
Right.
Conference that I organise, and in it she was talking about building a personal brand, and she said you need to buy your domain name, so johnainsworth.com or jodiehook.com, whatever. And lots of people listened to the talk, when that was great, didn't do it. And she was like winding us up by like searching for John Ainsworth on Google and then showing who came up. It's like, oh, this musician, that must be John, you know, and saying you need to be like ranking for your own name, you need to get your LinkedIn profile, this kind of thing. So this year she moved her business, or maybe end of last year, moved her business over to being AI focused. And so I thought, I wonder if she's bought jodiecook.ai. And she hadn't. So I bought it.
That's so funny.
And then I put up a quote from Jodie on there, and I just left it. And about 3 months later, she called me up and she said, I know it was you, Ainsworth. I know it was.
That's so funny.
And every so often, I would then change the quote, and then I wouldn't tell her I did that either. And so just every so often, I get another message from her being like...
Did she buy it from you? Or do you still
I know, I have to give it to her. But like, so at the conference this year, we had another talk about personal branding. And I said to everybody, now, a couple of years ago, Jodie gave the talk about personal branding, and not everybody listened to her. And this year, Yota's given this talk about personal branding, and I want to make sure everybody listens. And I told the story about Jodie and how I'd bought her .ai domain name. So I said, what I've done is for every single person in the audience, I've bought your .ai domain, and I'll let you have it back when you show that you've done what Yota said today. I hadn't done it, but everybody believed me.
I love it.
So anyway, personal branding, right? So Jodie's been banging on at me about this, and she's like, yes, it does help you to drive more business, but it also makes business easier. Just like, because I've got investors in from that, I've made connections with other business people, I've got into masterminds because I've built out this personal brand. Okay, so let's say someone's bought into this. They're like, yes, I want to build my personal brand on LinkedIn. I get that this is the place to be. What is the approach? How do people do this?
Okay. So first you need an Everest, because personal branding is simple, but it's not easy. Everybody quits after, I don't know, the average podcast lasts about 6 episodes, right? Like that's the average podcast like length. With people is they last about 30 to 21 days and then they quit because they don't see the fast results. So what is it that you're actually building a personal brand for? If you're building a personal brand to get leads immediately, then it's not going to work. If you're building a personal brand to get invited to events immediately, then it's not going to work. There needs to be a bigger vision of like, what is that message that you, John, me, Lara, are going for. So it's like, what is the anti-vision, or like, what are you going, who is your enemy? My enemy is like the education system, the people that didn't give me a job. So those things are in the forefront of why I'm producing the content that I am at the rate that I am and at the excellence I am and what I'm consistently doing. So that is the one thing that's going to keep you showing up every single time. If you don't have that, you're going to be lost. And this is the problem that I see every single day. They're like, oh, I'm not growing. Oh, I'm not going viral. Oh, no one's engaging with me. Would you engage with your own content to start? Probably not. And that's also the main reason. Like, people post just to post. People post and ghost. People, get tired. They just see a Pinterest quote. They copy paste it. They see someone going viral and they copy the exact same message. But it's not in alignment to who they are. So I think for me, and again, why I'm so in love with personal branding, it's an entire different journey that it takes you in your entrepreneurship and like even mindset, where you start discovering the things that you didn't even know about yourself because you're writing so much that you go back to that place at the start of your journey where you're, going back and trying to decipher your hero's journey. Like, how did it all start? Why did I even start this business? I need to tell this story. Lara's telling me to start storytelling, but I don't know what. So I had to go back and listen to my self-talk like 2 years ago. And I actually started my business because of this thing and I completely forgot. And then it gives you that inner purpose again of like why you are in the place you are right now. So find that first and don't do anything but that until you do. Otherwise, you're going to be lost. Secondly, you need to create a content system, content strategy, content pillars, whatever that is for you. There's so many different types of brains. I am a creative brain, so I'm scattered all over. I don't have a Notion system. I have a Notes app and I have a pen and I have a paper down there and my other notes and Notion there and Trello. But ideally, it's just like, what are you going to be educating your audience on every single day that they see you as an authority? That is the biggest part about personal branding. You need to create content that is highly actionable and highly applicable for then someone to relay it back to you when they apply and be like, that person taught me this. I learned that from John. Lara taught me that thing. I was at a panel 2 days ago, and so many people came to literally see me, and I was amazing. I was like, why? And they're like, you literally helped me land my first client. And having that is your unfair advantage, because being able to have done that for someone for free, no charge, they're going to be loyal to you forever, and they're going to love you. So that's the first thing. Educational content and storytelling content. So how are you going to inspire your audience to want to admire you, or at least relate to you? People want to relate to people, right? That's how influencing works. So when you're coming onto personal branding and trying to become an authority, how are you going to position yourself as an authority? By educating them on things that they don't know, and then creating a background story where they feel like you're not here, you're literally here and they're here. And that you start that by, sharing your story about how you suck at going to the gym, or like maybe how you came all the way to London and your ring got stolen. Like, that's funny, that someone could relate to. And then both of those in combination create the best rhythm for personal branding. Every single personal brand that I've studied thousands over the years, they all do those two things very, very well. I don't know anyone that doesn't educate well and doesn't storytell well.
So let's say you've got that figured, right? So you've gone through and you've done the work and you figured out what's your Everest, what is it that you're doing this for, how are you going to make sure you stick with it long term? You're not going to give up after 21 days or 30 days. You're going to keep going with it. And you've figured out a content strategy. So you've got a plan around stories and a plan around education. How often should you be posting? Is this like mostly education with a little bit of storytelling, and is it like every day? Like, what's the kind of frequency?
It just depends on the type of person you are and the type of personal brand you're building. Are you building a brand that's meant to get leads? Then you're probably gonna be educating a lot more rather than storytelling, because your idea isn't to build a brand just about you, it's more about your business. So how can you leverage your business knowledge? You educate a lot, probably like 90% to 10% split. Then if you're trying to build a personal brand to be influential, to get invited to speak, to get into Forbes, whatever it is, or get into a good circle, then you'll be more successful doing storytelling content about your business. So like, let's say remote work right now on LinkedIn just blows up every single time. And it's not the just using the word remote work, it's the story behind it. Like, why you're working remotely, how is this affecting your productivity, how is this good for your employees, how is this amazing for everyone involved, and it's actually increased productivity in the business. That is a story everybody can tell. So it depends on the goal, and the goal can change. Obviously, it changes for me. For the majority of the year, I'll be storytelling and educating 50-50 split, sometimes 80-20, depends. And then if I'm launching, I'll be 100% education, maybe 1% storytelling to relate to my audience, that will help them sell them onto me and why I'm the best person to buy from. Because people don't buy the coaching, they buy the coach as well. So there's always that need to remember, okay, how can I sprinkle that in my education? I do this mix in most of my content where I'm like story educating, where the majority of the content is educational, but 2 lines, at least 2, have a story about me that is personable. So it distinguishes from every single other how to, personal branding, grow LinkedIn post that you'll see online, which helps the audience again relate to me. Like, okay, if I say if I started from zero all over again, here's exactly what I would do. Then it makes it more approachable. It makes it more simple. People just feel like it's easier rather than here's how to grow to 100,000 followers in one day. Like, it doesn't feel the same.
And do you do much where because you've got coaching programs now, right? You're coaching other people on how to do this. Do you do much sharing stories about the client's successes, or do you find it's better to focus on sharing how you've done it?
If I'm launching, yeah. So, because I run a launch model, I don't really like talking about the business. I just like talking about what I'm learning, etc. So I treat my LinkedIn like, almost a building a public journey. But then if I'm launching, 100% is essential. I think every single time I post a testimonial, a video testimonial specifically, people will buy 100% because they relate to their stories. So the approach for testimonials is I ask them about how they felt, where they started, what they were doing wrong, and how they felt working with me. Again, it's a story educating people on my product.
And what are you finding in terms of video versus written? Because it seems like LinkedIn's mostly written. I saw an interesting post from you the other day about how you've started doing video, but you think that that's maybe, if I understood right, because you've already got the audience, so it's something where you could provide video for the audience rather than audience building. Is that right? Did I understand it properly?
Yeah, 100%. One of my clients literally just got 1 million impressions in one single post in 24 hours on LinkedIn for absolutely no reason. It was insane. Video right now on LinkedIn is a new trend, but I don't think is the best way to grow an audience. If you think about culture, and I'm very big on this, people do not understand the different cultures in different social medias. TikTok, Instagram, and even a little bit of Twitter, they're kind of like video platforms. Like, no, not Twitter, actually. And that's the culture there, and that's your mindset when you're going into the platform and consuming content. On LinkedIn and Twitter is the opposite because it's written. And that is something that's been enforced onto us because that's the natural way that people consume content. So when you're trying to force video onto the platform, people don't care because they're not used to seeing your face or hearing you even. They're not prepared for that. So video isn't great for audience building. It is great for like nurturing your existing audience and actually getting them to get to know you a little bit further. So I started my video journey by going on podcasts because I was like, I want to know if this actually is impacting anything at all. So I started going on podcasts, posting a little bit of them on my LinkedIn, and people did watch them and resonated with them. And then eventually, when I moved to YouTube, it just became like a non-negotiable because I already had the content. I might as well start repurposing it. But I don't think that my videos would be as successful as they are if I hadn't built my brand with written content for 2 years.
Interesting.
So no, don't do videos. Not going to grow your LinkedIn.
But didn't you just say one of your clients has just had 1 million impressions on her?
Yeah, but that doesn't
video?
mean anything. Like, impressions are invisible to anyone unless you brag about them. The data showed us that her post that had 1 million impressions versus the one that had 50,000, they all had the same like count, and the follower growth was actually less. So realistically, it doesn't really even matter unless you're gonna brag about the impressions that you got, because no one can see your impressions, so it doesn't really matter. It's a bit confusing right now, and I don't understand it. I understand that platforms like to play with other features, but LinkedIn is just intrinsically not a video platform. It's a text-only platform, and I think it should stay like that.
All right, cool. So someone's bought in. They are figured out their proportion they're going to do between storytelling and education based on what you'd explained. They're writing their content. How often should they be posting? Does that depend, or is it like everyone should do it once a day ideally?
It's more like how often can you commit to posting?
Okay.
More like if it's 3 times a week, then just commit to 3 times a week for a year. If it's two times a week, commit to two times a week for a year. The problem here is people get lost in that technicality of like, oh, I need to post 5 times a week, and they start. And then just like going to the gym, they'll go to the gym 5 days a week, and then they'll quit the next week. And that is a problem. I'm just like, commit to 2 a week, then keep on pushing for more. I think quality over quantity is better, usually, especially if you're building long term. If you're building short term, it doesn't really matter. Like, post as many times as you want, it doesn't matter. You just want to grow. But I think there's again, lost art in the writing and how, you write a hook and you write the body of the post, and how many keywords can you get in the post to actually educate someone instead of just posting to post. I try and refrain from telling people post 5 times a week, post 7 times a week, because then they just go for volume and they forget the quality, and then they're like watering down their own brands for the sake of posting. And I absolutely hate that because it's really sad. Your brand should not be diluted to the amount of posts you're creating. It should be actually, complemented by the posts. So how much value do you have to give? Is the post good? Yes. If it's not, don't post it. Simple. Don't post just to post. That's my main thing.
And then when you're writing the post, the hook on LinkedIn, as on most platforms, is crucial, isn't it?
Yes.
Because you've only got 2 lines pretty much that will show unless someone clicks read more.
Yeah.
So what's the art of the hook? What's some ways that people can write great hooks?
So the main thing for LinkedIn is optimizing for mobile always. The about 60 to 70% of LinkedIn users scroll LinkedIn on mobile. So usually the line stripped down to another line, it kind of looks annoying. So this is called visual symmetry. And I optimize for that so much because it makes my content snackable, which makes the audience a lot more engaged with my content because it looks easy to read. If we compare two types of paragraph posts, one that has like line breaks, different bullet points, different types of lengths in the post versus just one big paragraph with a bunch of share. Which one would you prefer to read? The first one, because it just seems easier to read, even though if it's the same information, it just makes it a lot more digestible. So first is optimizing that. So around keep your lines around 8 to 10 words long just to maximize that, line. And then again and again and again, every single line you create. But the hook should always have the result of what you're talking about. Don't actually lead with curiosity. Like people want to like, oh, I found this one crazy hack that is going to blow you up in 20 days. And then they never actually go and deliver the result because they're like, oh, no, sign up to my newsletter to find more. That is the worst thing that anyone can do because you're misleading your user. And then that's like taking away credit from you because now they're not going to want to read again because you're actually lying to them. So it's more like, here's my exact 8-step framework to write the story. Step number 1. And then you actually give them the framework. That's essentially what you should be doing in every hook.
And then how much detail will you tend to go into on those 8 steps? Because you mentioned snackable there. So I guess you're just going to give like the top line, these are the steps, rather than explaining in detail. You're not going to write like a 2,000 word post on LinkedIn explaining each of those 8 steps.
I think that's where, again, writing is such an amazing skill because when you write so much, then you learn how to cut the fluff out of everything and actually go straight into the very actionable things that framework would include. Most of my frameworks, I go and explain them step by step, and I also go in and actually add actionable things that people can use. So today I was like, my 8-step storytelling framework that you can use today, and it starts like step number 1, transformation, and then I gave them an example. Like, here's exactly where the transformation is. Step number 2, write 3 different pain points, and then I gave them the pain points. It's not about going into depth, as in how many words you can use, but how much can you tell them without using many words, and hence why LinkedIn can be a little bit hard to nail because you need practice, but the more practice you get, the better you actually become at writing and then communicating. And then communication is everything, as you know. So, yeah.
Okay. So if it's an education piece, we're looking at starting with the result in the hook so that someone's like, right, I want that 8-step process to
What's
achieve
in it for
X
me
result.
type. Yeah. Every single person wants what's in it for me. Like, you are not going to hop on a sales call for 30 minutes if you don't know the outcome of it. It's the same thing. It's about treating your audience with respect and making them know that you're about to give them the solution that they're seeking.
Cool. And then we've got the framework, those 8 steps, and we're trying to make it as succinct as possible so that it is snackable while also being practical and they can actually use it to go do the thing.
Yeah.
So they make like you mentioned earlier, their first $1,000 or $5,000 and then are like, great, you know what you're talking about. Now I'm going to buy something from you as well.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the end of the post? Is there do you have a specific thing that you're looking for with the outro? I know sometimes you say repost this and I'm going to send you a certain thing. How do you think about the call to action?
So I usually end with a platitude style end. So it's like a feel good quote, I call them. Twitter cookie cutter phrase, oh, just do it, try this for 6 months and then let me know how it goes, because then it summarizes the entire post in a way that kind of makes them remember the end of a movie, like the blooper. So that's the last bit. And then the call to action depends. I don't like calling people to action as to buy from me, 3 spots left, all of that. That's absolutely not my style because I don't have 3 spots left. If I had them, I would actually say, but that's usually bad because people lie about that a lot. Mm-hmm. I call them more like call to engage. So you use a PS. So how are you guys today? Which step did you like the most out of this framework? Have you used this today? How can I help you? Stuff like that actually prompts the user to engage with you even further because you're giving them 2 chances. You're giving them a chance to engage with you in the actual content. So oh, I really like this 8-step framework. I'm going to use it today. But if they didn't, or if they don't know what to comment, then you're giving them a PS at the end, like, how are you today? Yes or no? Like, did you like step number 1? Yes or no? Then they'll be like, yes, I really like it. Tell us more. So it's like a double shot at you at increasing your engagement, which is obviously like LinkedIn is like a numbers game. So it's also optimizing for that. So it's not called to action, it's called to engage.
Gotcha. All right, cool. So someone's nailing this, right? They've chosen how frequently they're going to post. They're writing their great hooks. They're putting together the frameworks that they're teaching. They've got their call to action at the end. People know what to post afterwards. What other steps are there that are involved with LinkedIn? Someone's mentioned to me about these engagement groups where people are like commenting on each other's posts. Is this black hat? Is this good,
Oh,
bad? You
black
looking at me
hat.
funny?
Yeah, I think that's black hat. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I learned that quote like recently, SEO stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So engagement groups are something that is technically not allowed in the platform because it's deemed as cheating. And I know so many people that have joined engagement pods, even paid for them as well. And what happens here is that you're inflating your numbers and you're buying authority. And what are you gonna do after you leave these engagement pods? Your engagement is gonna drop. We handle so many clients that have gone through this. They go and join an engagement pod. Their likes increase, everything increases, but then they leave, and then they're back at 0. And then it gives you a fake impression that your content is good, and you're not actually improving. I call it steroids once, but it's actually not even like steroids because at least with steroids, you actually have to do the work. But with the engagement pods, you're like dropping your link, then people are going to like your post regardless if they like it or not. So it's like a fake positive for you, right? Imagine if clients were telling you that, oh yeah, we love your work, and you're actually sucking for them. They're going to go and tell their friends. And then it's just like, I wish you told me. But you don't know. You're living in a lie. So I don't agree with engagement pods. I agree with actually trying to make meaningful connections and build leverage with authority figures in your space. And that takes time because you can't buy your way onto networking. You actually have to do the work. Simple as that.
What was that you mentioned there? Leverage with authority figures in your space. So
Yeah,
like, are you
authority
talking about doing
figures.
like partnerships with people where you can?
Well, no, it's like you and me. We're here right now.
Yeah.
I will engage with your content now because we've met and I know you personally. That is a relationship, organic relationship that you're building. People are forgetting that networking is actually a thing because we're so lost in this era of the internet. We're forgetting about the art of community and how you're building a natural, organic connection of people that actually want to engage with you and see you win and understand you and be friends with you even in the long term or do business. That is authority. Like now I'm seen as an authority figure on LinkedIn because I have this following. So ideally you'd be making connections with people that are at the same level where like, okay, he's got 100 followers, 100K followers, he's got 20,000 followers. If they like my content simultaneously all the time, then I'm going to be able to show up in more people's feeds. But you don't have to buy that. You can actually just create it by writing good content, by being an outstanding person, and by showing up into their comment sections and actually starting an honest conversation or even like a DM. How people actually did it in the old days. Like I find that LinkedIn is the biggest networking event in the world. It's 24/7. Everyone's there. You're like 2 connections away from your dream CEO, founder, client, and then all you have to do is show up. Dress nice. The dress is your content. Be able to network. Networking is the DMs, and then eventually, over time, if you're good, you actually get there.
So is there anything else, or is it just about continually creating that great content? Is there anything else that you need to be doing on LinkedIn?
There's no secrets, no hacks, just good content and engaging.
All right, great. So now you've got your own course that's going to be coming out. Talk us through, like you've been doing, you mentioned this launches for a while, and then you're going to be creating the course. So talk us through how the group coaching's gone and how you kind of had launched that.
Well, I love launches. I am addicted to the marketing of things. I don't know where to start.
When did you do your first group coaching
Okay,
cohort?
so it was a cohort, like 8-week cohort base, and I launched it in October last year, literally nearly a year ago. And I firstly wanted to do a course. I love courses. I am a courseaholic. I will take anything. I will buy them all. And so I was like, okay, I want to build my own. It's always been a dream. So then I realized I want to validate the idea. It's very important for me to understand that if what I'm teaching is even relevant, reasonable, and people actually want to know. So then I was like, okay, I've heard about these cohorts. Maven has this platform. They reached out, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and do something similar. So then I created like a curriculum, and then had a launch. And it was like a 5-day launch. I was just copying what everybody else was doing. My friend Kieran Drew had a launch as well, so I kind of like followed his model. And it was a short-term launch, 5 days, and then that's it, closing doors, and then it started an 8-week program. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's just a lot. What else do I do? Like, what else do you?
Yeah. So how did that go? How was your first launch?
It went great. The first day, I got 1 sale,
Okay.
so it was amazing. I felt
What
like
were you
a
selling
failure.
it for? How much?
It was 997.
Okay.
8-week program with 3 calls a week and guest masterclasses by the best in the world. And the first day I got 1 sale and I thought I was a failure. And I don't know if you've seen that meme of like that girl that has like 1 million followers and she tried to sell a shirt and she couldn't even sell 10 even with her 1 million followers.
No.
I was like, that's gonna be a meme of me, and I suck. I'm the worst person in the world. I'm gonna get cancelled. Everybody's gonna laugh at me. And then eventually day 2, day 3, day 4, sales skyrocketed. I think we signed in about 60 to 70 people in that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was exciting. It was very nerve-wracking. I had no idea what I was doing the entire time. It felt like a game, and I was on overdrive, and I had so many coffees, but it was so exciting, and I loved every single second of it.
Nice. Apart from the bit where you thought you'd be a failure.
I mean, even that, like that's still a lesson.
And how often have you done these launches?
2, and I think
Done 2,
I might
okay.
do 1 more, and that's it, because
Okay.
they're very exhaustive.
Yeah.
I think with the launch model, it's only like you can only do 1 every quarter, and then it gets exhausted. You like exhaust your audience, and I as someone that loves my audience, I hate to sell to them specifically,
Yeah.
and I hate the idea of like closing and opening, and the cohort is just like a very like it's exhausting, you know, because it's very intensive for everyone. And I liked it. I tried it. I nailed it, and now we're gonna move on to evergreen products. Yeah.
There's so the model that we use is we help people to sell their courses, not group coaching generally. If people have got multiple courses, then 1 email promotion per month. And what's massively different with doing a promotion versus doing a launch is it's really not tiring doing email promotions. So if you have like 3 courses, you can do 1 a month and you cycle back through again. And I know almost nobody who's gone from launches to doing smaller promotions and then wanted to go back again.
Yeah.
Because it's just so tiring
Yeah.
doing launches. It's just so intense,
Yeah,
you
it
know.
is.
It's a lot.
I do like the chaos of it. My second launch was even better, and I became addicted to webinars, which I didn't know I could be. I think I am a nerd. And I had like 2 webinars every day for 5 days, and it was exhilarating. And at one point I was so gone in my head because I was so tired, sleep deprived, and it was the best one. The very last one, we like signed in 10 new clients, I think, from just that one, like me just yapping and saying things. And I think it's because I just love personal branding so much. I get so excited about it that I even with my last straw I could talk about it. So if anything, my biggest tip for like a successful launch is webinars. Just full send them. It's amazing because it's like a sales call but live. It's great.
Webinars are just fantastic.
Yeah, I'm doing one with Jodie in 2 days.
Are you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm very
For your audience?
No, for hers.
For her audience.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, Coach Fox has got a great LinkedIn AI part built into it. I use that all the time. Nice. Okay, cool. So now let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, man, I want to build my personal brand on LinkedIn. I want to follow Lara. Where do they need to go?
We go linkedin.com/in/Lara Acosta R. That's it. And just Google it. It's good.
So that's Lara's name will be in the title, obviously, of the podcast,
Yeah.
but it's LARAACOSTA and then R at the end.
Yeah.
It's an extra one. Okay.
Awesome.
And then you've got a course that's going to be coming out
Yeah.
probably in September, right?
Yeah, mid-September. So hopefully by the time this episode is out, we will be launched.
How would somebody be able to make sure they get notified when that comes
You
out?
sign up to my newsletter. That's literally it. No, beehive.that'sliterallyit.com. That's it.
Beehive dot.
That's literally it.com, I
That's
think.
literally it.
Yeah, we'll link
.com.
it. We'll link it in the
Okay.
description. I don't know.
Perfect. All right, great. Lara, this has been fantastic. Really appreciate your time today coming on and explaining all about this. And I'm really excited to see how your course launch goes.
Thank you.
And I'm going to be getting it as well. I look forward to it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming to London.
Yeah, no, I live in London.
Oh, yeah. The first in-person episode, I mean.
Yeah. Thanks so much. This has been brilliant.
Thank you.
Cool. And if you're listening along and you are wanting to get hold of that resource that we mentioned at the beginning, it's datadrivenmarketing.co/roadmap. Thanks so much for listening as always, and we'll see you next time.